crazy second day at Esports World Cup. Jan Slam, and then we had the game of the day, the match of the day, Magnus Carlsen versus Hans Niemann. Who is going to win? Let's find out. Let me first show you what really happened in the game between Hans and Jan and what caused this slam. So, we got to the following position, which is drawn. Once again, it's an Armageddon game. This means that if Jan's draw with black pieces, he is going to advance to the next stage in the brackets and face Magnus as well. And in the following position, Hans simplifies the game and plays rook h8. And you might be wondering what the hell is going on, why we cannot just take the rook. Of course we can. That's why Jan goes king h8. So in case of king g7, queen d4, and white ends up winning the game, because now if let's say queen goes to f6, there is knight e8 and we take the queen, and if king goes up to g6, there is rook g8, we take the queen, we win the game. So the only move to hold is actually to take, but that allows a fork. And then what? You might be wondering what happens next. Is Hans just going to win a queen? And why Jan is slamming the table? So Jan was supposed to go to g8 and not g7, but what difference does it make? The difference is, guys, after king g8, knight g5, rook b1, king f2, rook b2, we pin the queen, and now if queen b2, it doesn't give a check. And now knight d3, and the position once again is a draw. And Jan still has to make a draw because he is low on time. He needs to take the pawn, and then hopefully that in 40 seconds time he's able to do it. But that king g7, he mouse leaped. I'm not sure if he really mouse leaped, but of course, I mean, he saw this king g8 line and he saw that rook b1, rook b2 should work, and he plays king g7 and just slams out of his desk. So, and now the point is that after knight g5, this doesn't work, and Jan played rook b2, and now I think what he played rook b2, maybe expecting that Hans already could have removed king f2, and then he would have taken and won the game, but of course, Hans captures a rook with check and wins the game, and now this thing with takes and takes doesn't work once again, because queen b2 is a check, and Hans wins a game. Absolutely crazy turnout of events. And going into the next round, we have a battle between Hans Niemann and Magnus Carlsen, who is going to win. So we get to the following endgame in the first game of their match. Magnus is playing with white pieces, and as you might see by looking at time, 38 seconds for Hans, 52 seconds for Mr. Magnus Carlsen, and extra pawn for Magnus in the endgame, and we know how dangerous can Magnus be with the extra pawn. But this is a draw at the moment. Bishop goes to d2. Bishop needs to stay here to kind of control. Yes, there are some moments, and we'll see during the next couple of moves, that white are still able to win, but you know, black need to make serious mistake. And of course, with low time, it's tough. So bishop c3, knight goes to c4, bishop goes to b4, knight e3, and now bishop d2. Knight d5, and what Hans was supposed to do, he was supposed to play king e6, and then he holds the game. Now the idea is f5, of course, is bad, because king d6, and you not allow anything, and f6 takes knight f6, and you just come back with the king. This king cannot be able, I mean, it just cannot capture this pawn, and for knight to be able to capture it, it has to go to j8, but then king f7 traps the knight, and unfortunately it would have been a draw, but Hans makes a mistake. Small mistake, but it allows king f5. And once again, bishop c1 is best, knight b6, and now, I mean, Hans plays a logical move. I think bishop d2, yes, loses the game, bishop e3 loses for the same reason. So the only move to make a draw is king f8, which is wild. You're just basically saying, alright buddy, you're not moving this pawn, you can do whatever you want. Knight c4, and then king f7 loses, but king g8 makes a draw again. That's why it's complicated endgame. I mean, it's kind of wild, but yeah, that's the way it is here. And now knight e5, just bishop d2, and black are holding. But instead we saw bishop a3, looks like a logical move, but now knight c4, knight e5, and suddenly knight d3 attack both and protects f4, attacks c1. So bishop has to go, king g6, and suddenly f5, knight f4, and this knight is most likely going to capture. F6 is going to be pushed, and this pawn is going to fall. And unfortunately for Hans, he loses this match and goes to the lower bracket. And let's see how those brackets looks like after 2 days of play. So yesterday we had plains, now we have group stage. I'm still getting used to the format. So that's a group stage. Nobody is really being eliminated here. So we had Alireza Firouzja defeating Wei Yi, Arjun Erikasi defeating Michal Sarin, Yangzhishtov Duda defeated Mr. Benjamin Bok, and Nadirbek Abdustorov defeat Pranesh. Then in the semifinals of the bracket, of the winners bracket, we had Alireza Firouzja going through against Arjun, and then Yangzhishtov Duda lost to Nadirbek. Nadirbek won against Pranesh 2-0, then he won against Duda 2-0, and he will be facing Alireza Firouzja in the next round. And in the lower bracket, we had Wei Yi. Wei Yi is going to play against Michal Sarin. That's about to be elimination. Benjamin Bok Pranesh. Whoever loses here loses his spot in the Esports World Cup this year. Yangzhishtov Duda is waiting for the winner, Wei Michal Sarin. So one of those guys is going to advance. Actually, I'm not quite sure. I think 4 players are going through. And then they play again quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. But I might be completely wrong. In group stage, Group B, Magnus Carlsen beat Andrei Sipenko. Hans Niemann won against Jan. We saw that. Denis Lazovic defeated Sina Mavahet. And Hikaru Nakamura won against Alexei Sarana. Denis Lazovic then proceeded to lose against Hikaru Nakamura, and Magnus defeated Hans. We'll see Magnus Hikaru, Team Falcon, and Team Liquid. It's gonna be exciting. And then we go all the way to the losers bracket, where Andrei Sipenko will be playing against his countryman Ian Nepomniachtchi, then Sina Mavahet against Alexei Sarana, and then Hans is waiting for this winner, probably going to be Alexei, but Sina is a very talented junior, so everything might happen. And Denis Lazovic is waiting for Andrei Sipenko and Ian Nepomniachtchi, and then I expect Hans to advance to the finals of losers bracket, and let's see how it goes for him. And that's it from me for today. Let me know who you're rooting for, maybe what esports World Cup teams you support for me. I mean, I'm only watching chess events, and maybe we'll watch something else depending on what I like. But it's gonna be exciting couple of days of chess. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next recaps. Bye bye.